Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Zach Malvolti. I'm the Director of Sacred Music here at St. John's Episcopal Church. It's my honor to welcome you to our final Music at Midday concert this spring. It's been a really delightful season. I'm really happy to see so many returning faces. If you have not already, make sure that you sign up on the email sheet that's in the back or in the luncheon so that we can keep you informed of the next Music at Midday when we return in the fall, so that we can see you all again for another wonderful season. This has been an absolute delight to put together and to share with everyone, and I want to say thank you to all of our donors and our sponsors who support all of the music making that we have here at St. John's. I always want to invite people to come to our choral evensong. I'm excited. This Sunday at 5:30 p.m., our choral evensong is going to feature a new piece in our repertoire for our chamber choir. It's William Byrd's Ectius. It is one of the shining gems of Renaissance choral repertoire. Very difficult, very, very beautiful, and just a delight to teach our choir, and I hope that we'll see you at 5:30 so that we can share it with you this Sunday for choral evensong. I also want to make you all aware that we have a special concert this week on Friday evening. At 7 p.m. here, Friday evening, we will have the Tulsa Chorale Chamber Singers. I'm also the artistic director of the Tulsa Chorale. Our chamber singers are directed by my associate conductor, Casey Logston, who is also a staff musician here at St. John's. She'll be doing a free choral concert that is entitled, get this off the top of my head here, it is an Americana concert called This Is My Home, and it's a collection of American choral pieces. And we would love to have you see this free choral concert at 7 p.m. this Friday right here at St. John's. Moving on to today's concert, it is an absolute delight today. We have cello and piano together, some very beloved pieces, and some pieces that are new to me. So without any delay, I want to introduce Kathy Venable and Miss G. Anderson. Please help me welcome them today.
much. There we go. I got it turned on. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy to be here with my friend G. We have wanted to do more chamber music together, and so we're happy to get to do this today for you. You've got to get to know her a little bit. She speaks 4 languages or 5. She's lived all over the world. You can read things in her bio, but I think anyone who speaks French, Brazilian, Portuguese, Korean, English, what was the other one?
English.
And English. And French. Well, a whole lot of languages. Anyway, she's a fascinating person to talk to. So if you were here at a concert that happened about 3 weeks ago, or 4, with Vicki Smith on the organ and me on the piano, we did the Swan for those 2 instruments. And now we're doing it kind of the way we all expect to hear it, with cello and piano. But this was the Saint-Saëns version, so the French version of the Swan. Of course, a movement from Carnival of the Animals. And now we're going to treat you to a different kind of swan that she's going to tell you about.
Good afternoon, I think. Thank you so much for taking time and coming to see and listen to us on this Wednesday. It's a pleasure to be here, and I give a special thanks to Dr. Zach, Dr. Zach M. And Kathy Venable. It's always a pleasure to play with her. And this beautiful church, St. John Episcopal, very, very beautiful, wonderful space for chamber music. So I'm very thrilled to be here with you, and each one of you are precious to us because we make music for people that are like you here because you like to share what we have to offer, right? So, taking over the Swan from the French composer Saint-Saëns, I will continue with another Swan by a Brazilian composer called Heitor Villa-Lobos. So how many of you have ever heard of Villa-Lobos? Wow, that's awesome. So he's a Brazilian composer that was born in Rio. He began music. He loved cello and guitar, like in Rio. And then he ended up going to France because Rio has a lot of influence from French culture. He ended up going to Paris, studied with all these famous composers because Paris was the center of everything. And he came back to Brazil, began composing almost like French composers, but he stopped writing his music with opus and he invented his own thing. And he created the Bachianas. If you know Bachianas number 5 for voice, he's the one who began to revolutionize this chamber music, began groups with 8 cellos and 1 soprano. That's the most famous. So he's a very eccentric, thankfully creative and free. I will do whatever and then he ended up creating a lot of new things for chamber music. So we will play another one that talks about swan, and in Portuguese it's called O Canto do Cisne Negro, and it means the singing of the black swan. There is a legend that Kathy found out later that is not true, but it was a legend for a long time. And by the time that Villa-Lobos was there thinking about composing this music, I think it was considered real legend. But it talks about how swans are beautiful and they sing one time in their life, right before their death. How many of you have heard of this legend? So, it's quite famous, right? So, he imagined this song of a black swan that will sing his last song right before dying. So this is now from the Saint-Saëns French, kind of happier swan to a darker black swan, last song before his death. So Heitor Villa-Lobos, Canto do Cisne Negro.
Okay, next we're switching gears. We're going to have some Gershwin. And some people here may already know this. Jack Roller's major music brain. I bet you already know this, but I just found this out yesterday, and I hope it's true, that Gershwin learned to play the piano by watching player pianos work. I hope that's true. I don't know if you know that. Even Jack didn't know that one. So that's kind of a fun fact about Gershwin. Can you imagine him as a little kid watching a player piano and thinking, oh, okay, there's that note, and there's that note, I'm going to recreate that. And as a young man, he earned a living by playing in a music store where you're trying to sell the record to the people coming in, and so you need somebody sitting there playing the music for them to entice them. So that was George Gershwin. Can't believe he had such a humble start. So he wrote these preludes. It was supposed to be a set of 24 preludes, and then he culled it down to about 7, and then as they decided to start publishing, then they made it, well, maybe we'll do 5, and then he got it down to 3, and the other 2 are used in other ways. The publisher did not like one of them because it sounded just like concerto in F, and he said, nah, this is too similar. So anyway, what we're left with are these wonderful 3 preludes. The first one with jerky syncopated rhythm, influenced by Brazilian dance themes, yay, G, so a tribute to her homeland. It's jazzy, but to the audiences of the late 1920s, it was just groundbreakingly strange. So just imagine that when you're listening to it. Then the second prelude is real slow and bluesy, emphasizing minor and major duality of the blues. So fancy. The third prelude, called the Spanish Prelude by Gershwin, but to modern ears, we don't really hear it that way. But the main theme reveals the 2 melodies that together form kind of a question and answer between the 2. The question is in E flat minor, the answer is in E flat major, but major wins, so I guess that means it's a happy ending for the...
And and now we will go back to Brazilian composer since I grew up there and I learned music there. I love to bring Brazilian composers as much as I can. I also love living composers because composers have a mind of their own that are brilliant. And if they work so hard to make us exist, giving us music, I want to support them. So this composer, Hernani Villani Cortes, he was my professor when I was undergrad there, and he's one of the composers that helped me like playing living composers. He's the one who introduced me to a lot of his colleagues' music written for cello, and he also began to compose for cello. And he would take me and do premieres here and there. I was just freshman, and he is the one who gave me this joy of playing living composers. So he's still alive, he's 94. He became this beloved Brazilian composer that loves all kinds of music. He didn't know where to stay, so he went to school for classical music, so he composed like traditional style, but he loved Brazilian music too, the popular music, bossa nova, if you know. So he became this in-the-middle composer that sometimes is criticized by both, but for us, we gain so much of both words. So with you, Hernani Villanis Cortes, Contemplativo. So thank you again for being here. And we are ready at the last piece. And we will finish up with a piece by Paganini. And he's an Italian composer. I think everybody knows Paganini, right? Yeah. He was considered so good, that he couldn't be a real man. So they thought he had a pact with the devil or something like that, right? So, but it's a variation on the theme of Rossini, Moshe. I don't know what language you know, Moises. And then it's written for violin, but there was a crazy man that translated for cello, and a crazy person that will try to play on the cello with with another one that says okay for that. So thank you so much for your presence here, and thank you again for the church to support live music, classical music, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And I hope you enjoy and come back to all the series, and it's precious to this town. Have a great day. And